I'd like to introduce Sarah from England, who takes LDN for fibromyalgia and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Thank you for joining me, Sarah.
Thank you.
Could you tell us when you first started to notice your symptoms?
I had severe symptoms that started around 2009 after I'd had my twin girls, but I noticed symptoms as a child. I just didn't realise what the symptoms were.
So what was it you were experiencing as a child?
As a child, I was experiencing what my mum called growing pains, I suppose, but these growing pains were just sort of aching muscles. So much so as a child I would have to take paracetamol for them. Also stiffness in my hands. Some days I would go to school and I wasn't able to write. I just thought this was part of being a child. I thought that was normal.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like as you got older?
Well, as I say, I wasn't properly diagnosed with fibromyalgia until August 2011, but from about 2009, I was in severe pain.
Mm-hmm.
I started to become completely debilitated, just very sort of stiff. I was on painkillers around the clock. I wasn't able to sleep on my mattress for pain, but I just believed that this was because I was on a mattress that was too hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't able to do the normal things I would say for somebody of my age group, which was about 31-year-old at the time.
Right. So what were your symptoms like before you had your girls? How was your life before?
Well, I was. I would say I would have just classed my life as sort of normal. I felt I was very active. I was a very happy person, jolly. I did have some symptoms, but as I say, I thought they were just niggling symptoms. They weren't anything that I would have classed as serious. I did suffer from quite a lot of infections as I went through life. But apart from that, I just always thought that was because I was on the thin side. But basically, my life was really good, and I was very, very happy. And I would have just called, myself normal,
mm-hmm.
really.
So what happened after you had your twin girls?
Well, I started to develop the symptoms. As I say, I was in severe pain all over my body. I was only sleeping for about 2 hours through the night because of the pain. And I went through, as we thought it was the mattress, I went through 10 mattresses in a year trying to get a mattress that I could sleep on. It was very, very distressing. I was suffering from severe chronic fatigue. There were times when my legs would just collapse from under me and I was only able to crawl. And the symptoms that I had then sort of developed over a period of time started to include things like bladder irritation. I had dizziness and spaciness. Quite often that was especially after I'd eaten food. I would constantly have rashes, brain fog, that very sick brain fog sometimes, immense stomach pain and gut pain. I had problems with my vision, very snowy vision, problems with concentration, and I couldn't literally tolerate any medications, any supplements, and eventually I couldn't tolerate food. And I had a period of time where I ended up completely couch-bound.
Goodness.
Quite a while.
Mm. And how on earth did you manage with twins?
It was very, very, very difficult as we didn't have any family support. We ended up having to ask for help from the children's services, but they could only provide 2 hours help a week, which really didn't really help that much, to be honest. My husband had to work from home for a while. Luckily, he had a very understanding employer who let him work from home just to keep an eye on me, to help me look after the girls. It was very, very difficult. I had to force myself to go out with the girls, even if I wasn't even sure if I could make it to where I wanted to go, because my legs were so tired and my body felt so tired.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, the symptoms developed further Also, you know, at a later date, they did get worse than that as well. And at one point, we just thought, I had to give up work, obviously, while I was so ill, and I thought I was going to have to claim benefits to be able to survive financially.
Mm-hmm. So what were your symptoms like before you started LDN? You said they'd advanced.
Yeah, they did. They developed further into muscle spasms, muscle twitching. I was struggling with breathlessness and nausea. I had hair loss, extreme concentration problems, so much so that I couldn't even concentrate to make a meal sometimes. Or I'd walk into a room in the house, I didn't really know what I was doing in there. I had weight loss. I went down to around 5 stone. I had quite, as I say, memory loss. I couldn't focus my eyes. Sometimes I couldn't see who I was looking at. I was constantly sleepy. I needed to sleep. Well, I would have just slept all the time. If it hadn't been for the fact that I had to keep going to my girls, I would have literally just went to bed and just stayed there. I had a lot of fluid retention, and especially around the eyes. I had menstrual problems, periods every 2 weeks. Had quite severe headaches, and I was completely intolerant to the cold. I had severe depression and visual disturbances with my eyes. I could see things in the corners of my eyes that moved. And I just basically, from a personal level, I honestly thought I was waiting to die. I wanted to die. And people around me thought I was literally going to die. I was so ill. Mm-hmm. I also had an autoantibody level of about 113, but that wasn't found until a private test was done on my thyroid later. Yeah.
And how did you hear about LDN?
Well, the doctors were at a complete loss of how to treat me. And the only thing they could treat me for was the depression and the sleeping tablets, which were okay, but I couldn't really tolerate the medications very well. So I've been researching myself since I was diagnosed. I was researching. My husband's a nutritional therapist, so he has a lot of books in our library, so I was looking through them all the time. And I had one book that was about a gentleman that suffered from Hashimoto Thyroiditis, and in that book he mentioned low-dose Naltrexone and how it had the ability to reduce autoantibodies back to almost zero for some people, and also how it was able to rid people with fibromyalgia symptoms, rid people with fibromyalgia of most of their symptoms. And then it wasn't until a later date that I came across it really by accident on the internet while I was looking at some other medication. And once I read about what it was supposed to do, I just knew straight away that I really wanted to try it. I knew that it was supposed to help with all the 4 areas that were involved with fibromyalgia: the cognitive symptoms, the pain, the fatigue, and the depression. So I thought, well, this is something I really must try if I can get hold of it.
Did you have a problem obtaining a prescription?
Yes, I did initially. My consultant wouldn't prescribe it for me as he had no experience of using it. But he did say he was happy to refer me to someone who had experience, but I didn't know of anybody at that time. I went to my GP and she said there was absolutely no way she was going to prescribe it, as it was not licensed for the use of fibromyalgia. I offered her information to read and to advise her that she could if she felt it was of therapeutic benefit, but still the answer was absolutely not. Eventually I went through the LDN Trust and I spoke to a very kind lady there, and she recommended a doctor to me, and he gave me a consultation over the telephone, and he issued a prescription that day to me.
And where do you get your prescription filled?
I get it filled at Dixon's Chemist in Glasgow, and I find that that's an absolutely extremely efficient service. It's all done over the internet. The payments are taken care of in the same way, and my LDN's delivered to me in good time every month. and if there's a holiday period, to make sure that you're covered for that holiday period. And I think it's the most efficient service I've ever came across. Fantastic.
That's good. And how long have you been taking LDN now?
I've been taking LDN for 7 months.
And how has it helped your conditions?
Well, on a personal level, it has relieved nearly all of my symptoms, and there was a very long list of them, as you've heard. And I believe that it's allowed my body and my mind to heal over time. It's on a medical level. I've had my autoantibodies checked after 6 months, and they've reduced from 113 to within the normal range, which I think is below 30. So I don't know the exact number, but they're within the normal range. So that's fantastic proof for me personally that it's working as it should. And as I say, all of my symptoms are just about relieved.
Wow.
I'm living a normal life. Well, what I would call normal for me.
Yes.
A normal life.
Did you experience any side effects when you first started?
When I first started it, I had a sleep disturbance for about a week, which was fine because I was quite used to having sleep disturbances anyways. And the only other thing I would say I noticed was, whilst I was trying to find the correct level for me to take, the correct amount, if I took too much, I would feel a little bit ill. I would have flu-type symptoms, and I would know that I needed to cut back. And I would try that again at a later date, and if it happened again, I would know that I'd taken too much. And I eventually levelled out on about 3 milligrams. And that's fine, that makes me feel well. But apart from the sleep disturbance, there's no other side effects. The only thing is I do get a little bit of sleepiness through the day, but that could be from another medication that I take, which is just paroxetine, an antidepressant, which is known to cause sleepiness anyway, so I can't say that's exclusively from LDN. So as far as I'm concerned, the only real one was the sleep disturbance for a week.
So will you continue to take LDN?
Oh yes, as long as it's available to me and as long as it's still working, I'll hopefully take it for the rest of my life if I can. I don't want to stop taking it as long as I feel well.
What would you say to other people who've got fibromyalgia or Hashimoto thyroiditis who are contemplating trying LDN?
Well, I would say that the side effects of LDN are so low in comparison to other drugs that are given for fibromyalgia particularly. There's a whole host of drugs, but the side effects are really, really severe. And anybody with fibromyalgia knows that it's so difficult to tolerate medications, which is one thing I actually can do now, taking LDN. I can tolerate my medications really well. I can tolerate supplements now really well, and I don't have any side effects from food. So I would say the only thing you could gain by taking it, I don't think you would lose anything by taking it. And this medication's given me my life back. I was very open-minded about it when I started because obviously everybody's symptoms are different, and mine was such an exhaustive amount of symptoms. I wasn't sure how much relief I would get, but as you've heard, you know, my life's so very worth living now, and I'm just about back to my old self. So I would say to anybody to give it a go, because you're not going to lose anything by trying it.
Well, what an amazing, inspirational story. And how are your twins?
Oh, they're great now. They know the word fibromyalgia very well, which is quite sad. So they know that I'm well now, and I can do things with them and play with them a lot, and there's no issues now with looking after them. I would say we're a normal, healthy family.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It really is good. Well, I hope you continue to have such good results.
Thank you.
And
thanks for your help from the LDN Trust.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much.